You want to burn yourself out and fail miserably? Go ahead and be a really, really selfless person for selfish reasons, and I promise you, you'll fall flat on your face. People can smell it. People take your gift of a referral or a kind book with a handwritten note in the front, and they go, another thing from Robert. This isn't about doing the thing. This is about having the right heart while you do the thing. It truly matters.
Our guest today is the owner of Reclaiming Sales, the host of the Reclaiming Sales podcast, and also now the Reclaiming Sales Book Club. Welcome to the show, Robert Gillette.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I am friggin' excited. This is going to be great.
I know we've been waiting to do this for a while. We've connected through the book club. We'll talk about that in a moment. Guys, check out reclaimingsales.com. And what I love about Robert is he made it super simple. He broke those three things we talked about, the sales program, the book club, and the podcast. It's all clickable on his website, reclaimingsales.com. I'll have your social media clickable in the show notes so people don't have to go hunting for it. It's all clickable. So welcome to the show. Excited about bringing you on the program.
Well, yeah, man, I really appreciate it.
So we're going to kick this thing off with your LinkedIn headline, which I love. It's the banner. First thing you see when you go to your LinkedIn, it says, "You don't need to sell your soul to be successful." And that's very much what the topic of this conversation is going to be about. Can you elaborate on how you stay true to your purpose while also achieving success?
Yeah, that's a very complex question. And depending on the scenario, it actually changes. But I worked for a company and I just stole their noble promise. You know, some businesses have I'm a big fan of, if it's great, just don't be afraid to take it. So their noble promise to all their customers was to raise the quality of everything they touch. And man, I really just took that to heart. And I've made it kind of one of my life goals is that when I'm looking through the lens of when I'm looking at anything, whether it be a friendship or a time with my family or a client that I'm working with or the podcast, I just want to go like, how can I make this, how can I raise the quality of this for whoever comes to be a part of it? How do I just raise the quality of their life, of this event, of this client? I want everyone to go, wow, it's better because Robert interacted with us or was here or whatever. So that's one of my ways that I do it. It's a way to get what I need, but also serve others.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that directly answers your question.
No, it does answer the question because you're coming from it and like, how can I improve the situation or make it better? Because I'm here, not just I'm doing this. And if we're talking about sales, that means I'm not simply taking an order, or if it's consultative selling, I'm not simply walking someone through a process for a desired result. I'm actually making an impact in some way. And that's what you and I get geeked up about when it comes to sales, because it's become a dirty word over the years. Horrible people have turned it into being a little bit of a dirty word, right? And so we want to flip the script today. And anyone who's tuning in, whether you're getting into sales or you're already an expert in sales and you want to take it to the next level, the idea with this conversation is to remind people that it's not this dirty thing, and sales is a necessity for every organization that sells a product, service, or improves the world in some way that you're selling. You taking your wife or your girlfriend or spouse out to the movies on Friday night and deciding what title you're going to see. There's a sale that happens. Somebody, has a little bit more influence to decide the title.
I literally believe everything in life is sales. Getting my kids to eat broccoli, that's sales. Getting them to go to bed, that's sales. Everything, even if you're trying to raise money for a nonprofit, that's sales. These interactions that we have with people, if I have something I want, an outcome, a thing, if I have a desire, a change I want to see in the world from the status quo that it is now, I have to either enact that or convince someone else to enact that. That's sales, whether we want to think of it or not. So everyone says that like, well, I'm not in sales. I'm a wealth manager. I'm a lawyer. I'm an accountant, or I'm a podcaster. That's true. But you're also in sales. And the longer it takes you to embrace and then get good at that, the harder it is to achieve the goals you want in this world.
Right. And it's really just because of coming at it, thinking of it as a dirty word, opposed to it as like we breathe air. We need it. We need oxygen. Well, sales is a necessity to, again, making decisions or bettering a situation or closing a deal. Like if you believe in and know that you're doing something great, whether it's a product, a service, you could be a coach, whatever it is, doesn't matter. You can sell insurance and you know that my clients are better taken care of because I'm working with them, or whatever you're doing, you're a podcaster. This audience is better off because they've listened to our conversation. I believe that. That's why I do this with the passion I do it with. But I realize that, you know, there is a sales process. Guess what? People can choose, 2.5 or no, it's 2.5 million podcasts that are on the market
Yeah.
on their phone, but they're choosing to listen to you and I right now. So we, in a sense, sold them on the idea of, hey, this is the right option for you. So I think that's a beautiful thing, and that's why I wanted you on the program today, is to kind of like break down the barrier and refocus everybody who's taken this word sales and kind of got scared of it. So what? Tell us about your first sales gig and like what
Oh
were you
gosh.
natural, or
Uh,
talk about kind of the awkward growing pains?
yeah.
Because you're a pro in sales now today as I talk to you, but I want people to realize we don't all wake up one day and we're just great at it. Just like sports, you
Mm.
don't wake up and you're a Hall of Famer. So talk about some of your growing pains.
Yeah, I love that you said that, and I believe it's true. I don't believe there's no such thing as a natural born salesperson. I believe there are people that have certain skill sets or personality traits that lead you to maybe have early success. But to be a really, really good salesperson almost is like just becoming a high functioning human. Like you have to be a good listener, you have to be
Right.
persuasive, you have to, all the things that require you to either be a smarmy salesman or a really honorable salesman. Like they're the same skill sets are required to do that, and that's why it's so important to invest in your education as a salesperson and to not run from this function, to just really get good at it, whether it's 40 hours of your 40 hours or if it's 10 of your 40 hours in a week. So to answer your question though directly, my first sales gig, actually where someone was paying me to sell something, was for a neighborhood magazine, and it was a commission only job, so they weren't actually paying me to do it. And it was essentially advertising with the carrot of actual community relationship as its goal, but you really paid for the advertising. But if you did it right, you got a relationship with the community you wanted to work in. And it was a really good product. And I believed in it a lot, but man, I was not successful. I all in as a commission salesman for 7 months, and I never got more than 70% of the goal that was required. And it was tough because you had to hit 100% to go to print. If you can go to
Right.
print, you never made any money. So for
Yeah.
7 months, I didn't make any money. And it was a really, really tough job. But the hardest part about it was no one could tell me why I wasn't successful. They
Hmm.
had 800 people doing this. I went to conferences. I shadowed salespeople that were really successful.
Hmm.
And no one could tell me, no one could go, Robert, here it is. That's why you're not doing it. And I could fix that and then be successful. So I ended up
Right.
quitting and then got another job where it turned out I worked there for 7 years, and that they really helped me unlock then what was my problem as a
What
salesperson.
was it that was that you identified, or they helped you identify, that took you from going through the motions and missing your mark because you didn't know the some of the
Mhm.
ingredients that you may have been doing wrong? What did you identify that were those like
Yeah.
big big items that you corrected?
So it actually really was only one big item. And I
Okay.
don't think I'm the first person to come up with this idea. And one of the fun things about sales is that, I don't know if the first job was sales, but the second job definitely was. Because since the beginning of time, somebody had to sell anything that ever existed. And humans are pretty much the same. We don't change that much as people from generation to generation. We may get better in certain areas and worse in others, but the way our brains work is the same. So, what I discovered after pretty much a couple years of being mentored and coming through my own working through my own garbage in my head about who I thought I was and who I really was and what was important to me and what I thought was important to me, I wasn't passing the sniff test. So there's a great book by Chris Voss that talks about, and it's a negotiation book, but he talks about, and I'm going to get the numbers wrong, so I'm sorry, Chris, but I think it's 7%, 38, and 55. So 7% of what people learn from you is your words. 38% is kind of like, your tone of voice. And the other 55% is your body language and the things your humanity puts out that you have no control over.
Yeah, I hopefully don't botch her name, but Maya Angelou has a quote saying, "People don't always remember what you told them; they remember how you made them feel."
Absolutely. It's very
Yeah.
in line with that. I don't think it's a new idea, but it's important to remind ourselves of that over and over again,
Hmm.
because what was happening is I had huge barriers between who I wanted to be and who I thought I was. I was a third generation sales guy. Grandpa did it, dad did it. I never wanted to do it, and I ran from it my whole life. And
Hmm.
I ended up getting into it because my chosen career, I had a little trauma, a little thing that really prevented me from ever going back to that as a choice, as a life choice. Like my chosen career, I'm never going to do that anymore. Um, that's another story that we don't have time for on this podcast. But when I ended up in this sales role, it was kind of matched with my personality traits and what all the assessments say I would be good at, and I was going to give it a try. But I had my own mental barriers about how I don't want to be a smarmy salesman. I don't want people to think the things about me that they think about salespeople, but I'm really good at this. And so I lived in that tension. And what would happen is I would go and meet a prospect, and I would have my lines memorized. I would know the product. I would understand the value proposition. I could make convincing arguments to help them overcome objections. I could be likable. I could do all the things. I had a good grip handle on the skills.
Hmm.
But what would happen is we'd go through the process, something doesn't smell right. And it's not a conscious decision the prospect makes. All they know is that what's across the table from them doesn't smell right. It turns their stomach just a little bit, and they can't tell if it's the product or if it's me or if they had a fight with someone last night at home. All they know is their gut is telling them this isn't working. And
Yeah.
then they're going to say no.
So what
And
was that? What was that about you at that time that was sending off the alarm?
yeah, so I wasn't happy with who I was. I
There you go.
thought the
Okay.
only way to be a good salesperson was to steal from people, was to
Wow.
convince them against their will to buy a thing that maybe they don't need or want. And I hadn't learned yet how to be the kind of person that can. There's this moment I talk about on my podcast all the time, where if we're truly honest and aware of who we are and what we do, there will not always, but there will at some point in your career come that moment where you're sitting across the table from a prospect and you have a choice to make. And if you are looking out for you maybe will sell them the thing that you don't think they need or isn't the perfect fit for them. And you'll make the money, you'll get the sale, but you really know in your heart of hearts, this wasn't what they should have done. They could have done it, and it may even work out fine, but it wasn't
Yeah.
the best choice for them.
Hmm.
Or you're either going to do that, or you're going to ask that one question or point out that one logic argument or that one feature or that one competitor, or maybe even tell them no right out of the bat. And if you do that, you'll be happy with yourself,
Hmm.
but you won't get the sale. Maybe, probably
Hmm.
not. And you might even lose your job. You might miss your mortgage. You might
Yeah.
your kids will die and your wife will divorce you and you're going to live in a van down by the river. Like for the rest of your life, you're done.
Sure.
That's what your brain tells you anyways. That never will really
Yeah.
happen. But we have that moment when the adrenaline kicks in and we have that choice to make. And I was not confident that I would make the right choice. And in fact, back then, I didn't even know how to verbalize that choice. I couldn't even see in my mind's eye that choice because I was so focused on what I needed to accomplish and the goals I needed to hit. And so what was required, I know I'm monologuing now and I apologize, but to put the capstone on it, what one needs to do is to understand truly who they serve. Who is your master? Is it your quota? Is it your company? Is it your needs? Is it your financial situation? And if it is, I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm saying that's who I couldn't be. I had to figure out how to walk into the room and serve the other person first. I had to figure out how to truly be okay with the fact that I might lose my job if I don't get you to sign this contract, and
Can I
be all
guess
right.
what happened once you actually
Yeah.
started serving and stopped trying to
Mhm.
sell what you needed to sell and you started to serve the people and what was right for them?
Uh-huh.
I'm going to go ahead and take a wild guess that your
I'll
sales
give you 2 tries.
your sales started to take off like crazy because you were doing the
Yeah.
right thing and people felt comfortable. And actually, you could say, hey, I got these 4 options, and the most expensive one may not be the right one for Mr. and Mrs. Smith across the room. And you say, really, the second one, based on everything you told me, is really what's setting you up for, what you guys are looking to do. And they're going to be like, oh, he's not selling me the most expensive one. But not only that, you're not playing a mental game. You're literally saying, I believe this is the best option. And it feels so good to do that. And you may sell a $1,400 product and you could have sold 5 grand, but then the next house you sell the 5 grand one because you're doing it with the same energy.
I mean, you're right. Yeah, my sales did. My career took off. I mean, there's this. The
Yeah.
stats prove that once I could adopt that mindset, I was wildly successful, and it didn't happen right away. It took time because you can believe there's a difference between principles and beliefs. The principle is the
Mm,
truth, but do you really believe it, or is it just a thing you know? So it took
mhm.
time for the principle to become a belief, but once it did, the beautiful thing about it is that not only can you live in that truth that is freeing, but it gets you the exact client you want. One of my favorite things to do, because I used to sell IT support, was to sit down with, the prospect and they go, well, this happened, this happened, this happened. And, I'm worried they're just angry. They don't really want to make a change. They're just, unhappy. And I would say like, well, okay, if you just scrounged up like $5,000 and gave it to your IT provider and said, hey, if I give you this money, can you keep that from ever happening again? And they said, yes. Wouldn't that solve your problem? They would go, well, I guess. And I go, well, I'm going to charge you way more than $5,000. Why don't you just go
Yeah,
try that? And you uncover, and that, to selflessly say that, one of two things is going to happen. They're going to go, you know what? You're right. I will try that. Thank you, Robert. And guess what? That person was never going to buy from you anyways. Because
sure.
at some point they would have realized exactly what you just showed them, and you would
Mhm.
have wasted a bunch of time to get there. But 1 out of 5 will go, no, Robert, you don't understand. This is why that can never happen. And then you're like, oh, okay. And now I've built trust, rapport,
Yeah,
and I'm 50% closer to becoming a provider than I
yeah.
was beforehand.
And either way, get the sale or don't get the sale. You're walking in there with credibility because you showed them, you revealed something that can help them, and had the service, and you can still offer it to them. So that was still on the table. And then also you're giving them an opportunity to go to their current carrier and maybe figure out the solution there. And then likely what happens in that situation is now that carrier's one mistake away from them losing to you because that person's going to get one more problem and say, Robert, it happened again. Let's just get you on board and let's do this thing. Because you did
Yeah.
the right thing, you allowed yourself for that. If you were just kept pitching hard on the bigger deal without uncovering the needs, I'm talking to the audience right now. If you're like,
That's
Mike, I
all right.
know
You
all
go.
this
No,
stuff.
go for it,
I'm
man.
the expert. I'm just riffing with you here because
No.
I love sales. I've been doing this a long time, probably more than half of my life now. I love helping people out. And I do believe that sales is a great way that you can help people. You can unlock your greatness through it. I look at it like a sport. I'm not physically gifted, so I can't throw a football 80 yards and accurately or and all that stuff. But what I can do is when I get in front of someone, I know I'm going to do the best thing I can for them. And when I walk away with the sale, that's like scoring a touchdown. But doing it for the right reasons, you could celebrate it. You don't feel funny. There's one company I worked with, I quit after 30 days because everything I sold, I found out was a hoax. Once I found it out, I just said, I have to leave. I cannot sell this. I have a wife, I have a daughter, and I'm literally driving home every night, miserable, feeling that I'm ripping people off. I had to leave.
And some people can live with a certain amount of vaporware in their quota, and that's, I'm not saying that makes them a bad person, or that they should feel ashamed or anything like that. But the truth, as I'm discovering it, is there are these. I talked earlier about just being a high functioning human is what is required to be really great at sales, and that means you can do one of like the tactics of being a high performing salesperson from the outside to the prospect to the friends and family to coworkers, literally they look exactly the same if you're a smarmy person or you're a really, really honorable person. Like, it's do the same stuff. It's, yeah, challenge the sale, challenge the prospect to figure out if they're really a good one or not. And like, you can, in your own heart, you can do it for two different reasons. You can either do it to serve yourself or to serve them. You can either go, well, I'm most likely to get the deal if I challenge them. So I'm going to challenge them in just the right way that gets them to trust me, so that maybe when that guy makes that one mistake, I'll get the deal because I, laid a landmine for him and blah, blah, blah. Or you could say, well, I'm going to ask this question to see if that's what really serves them. And I'm going to give this guy another chance. And I really hope he fixes his problems, because I wouldn't want to lose a client. But man, yeah, if he does, I'll probably get the first phone call. And well, that would be great for me. And I'm not going to complain. But man, I really hope that they don't have to spend all the money they'll have to spend with me changing providers, which is disruptive and no fun. Like, it looks the same from the outside.
Right.
But what the customer can sense is the sniff test. The customer
Exactly.
can always smell your incentive. They always know what you're thinking, even if it's only in their subconscious. And that's one of the things that's so hard to pound home, is people go, look, yeah, I know how to do that. I know how to handle an objection. I know how to do this. I know how to do that. And like, yeah, that you do. And that's great. But the challenge is,
2
what
plus 2 is
your
4, because you know the equation. But when you're in the field and someone asks you a question and they look at you and you're calculating the thing that you learned in the classroom, and it's not something you believe, the word is energy. The energy right there can
yeah.
be felt. Humans we're total energy beings. And like, that's why, even if you know the answer or how to get a solution for someone, if there's energy that's off, that's the sniff
Mhm.
test, right?
And it could easily be that you had some bad tacos last night. That could be why you fail the sniff test. You never know. Like, it can be so hard to control these things, and that's why it's important to increase your statistical probability of passing the sniff test by having the right heart, having the right mindset. Bob Burg talks about in
Yeah.
his book, Go Givers Sell More, this idea that, like, you can't hold two things in your mind. You can't hold what you want and what is best for them in your mind at the same time. You're either
Yeah.
going to serve you or serve them. And so if
It's
you
funny
can
you bring
adopt
up
a
Bob Burg, because he
yeah,
literally that was my literal on my page here. Next question I wanted to drive with, because you just had the opportunity of bringing him into your book club,
into the book club, yeah.
the Reclaiming Sales, and I was completely bummed that I was not able to make it to that. I had the
Okay.
opportunity to meet him and interview him on this show.
Oh,
Bob
really?
Burg was on Mike DiCioccio. Yeah, amazing human being, just a beautiful person. And I love everything about Go Giver. So it's actually something I want you to continue to elaborate on, is this idea of keep going with it. So you cannot actually serve someone to the genuine degree at the same time thinking, oh, I'm going to, I got some other underlying thing. Doesn't happen.
Yeah, there's an old I don't know if I don't know where it came from, but I'm sure you've heard about the two wolves. There's the two wolves live inside of you. I have no idea the origin of this, but it mattered to me when I heard it. So, there's the wolf that wants to do good things. It's a good boy. It tends to the yard. It bites the people that come to rob your house, but it doesn't bite little children. It's the wolf that, like, is the good wolf. But then there's the bad wolf, the wolf that's mean to everybody and chews up your furniture and, like, hunts for sport, not for food, and those two wolves are constantly fighting in your mind. It's the two wolves, the one you want to be and the one you don't want to be. And the question is, who wins? Which of those wolves wins the fight?
Mm-hmm.
And the
Can't be
answer is
both.
the
There's
one
got to be one.
yeah. But the one that wins is the one you feed. It's the one that you encourage and pay attention to, and you give fuel.
I
And
love
in the
it.
same way, like, I love that one. I don't know where it came from,
Yeah.
but it's great. And so, when you are walking into a prospect's office and you have that first time appointment, or it's the final negotiation before the contract and you're working out the details, whenever that moment is where you're trying to sell the client on the idea of using you, you have those two wolves fighting. It's, I need the deal to hit my quota, to make my financial goals, to send my kid to college, to whatever it is. That's one wolf. And the other wolf is, this person is only talking to a sales guy or a saleswoman because they need me to help them make a decision. If they could do it without me, no one talks to salespeople for fun. Even I don't do that. Like you talk to salespeople because you need something. You need information or process or something. And so that's the other wolf is they need something to make a good decision. And so there's my needs. I need a deal. I have to stay employed, but they also have a need as well. And you're going to serve, you have to feed one of those wolves. You can't feed them both equally. That's kind of
Yeah.
another spin on the Bob Burg
That's
thing.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I just want to say that's one of my favorite things we've talked about on Mike DiCioccio, because when you really think of it and you break it down that simple, and it gives you the incentive, like, I'm going to feed the good wolf, and like you
Yeah.
can catch yourself, and if you even think about it, now you're mindful of it, and now you can correct it. Because until you're mindful of it, if you
Yeah.
don't realize it, you cannot physically ever improve a situation if you don't even realize that it's a problem. The other thing that I just thought about is gratitude. I talk about gratitude all the time. That's what the BGBG, it's be great, be grateful. Gratitude, when you're in a state of gratitude, you cannot physically be depressed. Like, you cannot experience bliss and gratitude and depression at the same time. Our bodies cannot handle that. So it's the same kind of thing. If you're doing the right thing, feeding the good wolf, the bad wolf cannot be eating because there's one meal to go around. I think that's really cool.
Absolutely. There's only
Yeah.
so much you can give to your conscious and subconscious. And so that's where Bob Burg's book comes back in is this idea that you can't both hold your needs in mind and the needs of the other person. And that is true whether they're a prospect or a current client or even a referral networking partner. You can't, it's just impossible. It's physically, psychologically, neurologically impossible to achieve both things, to hold both of those in your mind. One will have to take a higher priority than the other. And if you can find a way to make the highest priority, the dog you feed, to be the needs of the other person, to intentionally say, no, I'm going to make my highest priority to listen to what they need and try and achieve that first. And then commit to the idea that if I just do that enough, I believe through like the law of reciprocity or just the way the world works, there will be enough gratitude to go around that someone's going to do the same for me. Someone else somewhere someone that I've benefited will return that. And that's what, makes it the math work, because you can't just give forever. But I also believe that if you truly are interested in serving other people, it is literally impossible to not get a return on that investment. The only way to screw it up is to give selfishly, which I think you can do.
Right, expecting the result to turn around right away.
Yeah, looking for your quid pro quo. And again, that doesn't pass the sniff test either. You want to burn yourself out and fail miserably? Go ahead and be a really, really selfless person for selfish reasons. And I promise you'll fall flat on your face. People can smell it. People take your gift of a referral or a kind book with a handwritten note in the front, and they go, another thing from Robert. Because they can smell it. They can pass. You don't pass that sniff test either. So this isn't about doing the thing. This is about having the right heart while you do the thing. It truly matters.
It does matter, man. That is so good. With that, I'm going to take a little pause. We're going to take a 2-minute break and give some love to our sponsors. We'll be right back with Robert Gillette. Podcasting is a great way to engage with your audience and stay consistently relevant. The only problem is you don't have the time or desire to produce your own show. You simply want it done for you. And that's where Social Chameleon comes in. All you need to do is press record and upload the files. We'll handle the rest. From planning, production, post-production, distribution, and digital marketing, we have you covered. We realize that times are tough and funds are tight. And Social Chameleon believes in building supportive business relationships. By clicking on the link in this promo, we'll provide you 7 free podcasting tips to get started, as well as a free 30-minute online consultation. This is the perfect opportunity for entrepreneurs, keynote speakers, industry experts, influencers, and anybody who has a personal brand. With Social Chameleon, we help you build a brand that is out of this world. We're ready and waiting, so what are you waiting for? Click on the link to get started today. Hey guys, it's Mike. I'd like to give a proper shout out to Navigator Bookkeeping. Look, for a long time, I ran my business without really understanding the full financial picture. I used my gut and my bank account balance to make decisions, which led to some poor choices and constant stress over my business's finances. I knew something needed to change. At the beginning of 2021, I made a decision that helped pave a more clear path for my business. I started working with Navigator Bookkeeping. Since then, my bookkeeping has been handled for me. I now understand the full financial story of my business, making important financial decisions much easier now, and it helps me plan for where my business is going. I highly recommend giving Navigator Bookkeeping an opportunity to help your business. Check them out at navigatingyourbooks.com. Again, that's navigatingyourbooks.com. It's time to know the full financial story of your business. All right, guys, we're back in action with Robert. Remember, you can connect with him on social media as well as his website. All of that's clickable in the show notes, making it super easy to connect. So I want you to talk about the importance of continued education. Some people call it CE for sales reps and business professionals, because in every other field, like, insurance agents every 2 years need to get, keep their certification, or lawyers need to continue to be tested, I believe. In most professions, you have to be showing that you're learning and growing. But in sales, they're kind of like, as long as this guy's selling or this gal is hitting her quota, we'll keep her around. Talk about that.
Yeah, there's two different big areas I want to cover in that. But you're right. That's in California, at least. To be a lawyer, you have to have 25 hours of education. Sitting through courses or taking tests, or sitting through seminars every year. I think for CPAs, it's 80 hours every 2 years. I think even dentists have to do that. I mean, it's amazing how pretty much every profession where you expect to make more than $100,000 a year has some level of legally required continuing education or licensing. And usually it's licensing and continuing education.
Mhm.
But for some reason, sales professionals, you get hired at a SaaS company, they put you through a week of videos, and then maybe they fly you out to Chicago for a really, really boring seminar for 3 days, and then they just sink or swim time, man. And I talk to so many salespeople that are like, I don't want to join a book club. I do my sales. Sales stuff is for on the clock, and then when I'm home, I'm home. And I'm not saying that's a choice. Okay, that is definitely a choice. My hypothesis is that one of the reasons why salespeople fail in general is because they are subject to the needs of the company, and that's it. So if your company provides all your training, if they provide all your motivation, if they provide they help you set all your goals, they're the only people that pay you. Like,
Yeah.
you're just a gear in their machine.
Yeah.
You don't really exist as a salesperson outside of their ecosystem.
It doesn't need to be that way. I mean, you could take everything they give you, but if you're only using the deck of cards they gave you and not any of your own personal energy that you bring to the table, just like, when I think about it, just use deck of cards as a random example. But the thing that makes a great poker player isn't the hand that's dealt to them, because you and me, we can both get the same cards. But the fact is, if you really know how to play the game way better than I do, you're going to do more with that hand than I will. It's the same thing
You're
with
playing the
sales.
other people, not the cards, for sure.
Exactly.
In poker,
So the company hires this salesperson, gives them all the same resources. They give you the same resources, me and the next guy. But like, let's say the next guy doesn't do really well because he's only using the resource. I think that's really, really well said.
yeah. And to be fair, if your job is to work for 2 years in sales, so while you finish up your college degree and then you're going to go off and be a dental hygienist, then awesome. This doesn't matter to you. But if you're one of those people that says, look, I'm in sales now and I want to be an entrepreneur someday. I want to be CEO someday. I want to continue. I want to be a VP of sales. I want to be CRO. I want to make understanding and performing in sales a high part, like a big part of who I am going to grow up to be. You have to have more than just the thing the company gives you is it's just enough for you to make them successful. It's not any more than that. And they're not going to give you the full picture. They're not going to help you understand anything other than what makes the company successful. They don't have any financial incentive to do so. So what they're going to do is going to give you the bare minimum in a very fine, a very small cone of knowledge, and it's not going to be transferable. So when you go to your next job, that someone else is going to hand you another piece of the pie that's specifically designed for them to be successful. If you want to be a true professional salesperson, if you want if you want to be in the top 10% or more of your industry, no matter where you go, you have to understand the context of sales in general. You have to develop skill sets outside of that sliver of what the company wants you to know. And you have to do it all the time.
Yeah, it's personal development. It's being the best person for that role. It's like you think of the top athletes in whatever sport it might be, or it could be, we talk about dentists or lawyers. The greats that separate themselves from the very good are those that put in that extra time, the extra reps, the first one in, last one out mentality. And in sales, it's the same thing. It's like, and I totally believe everything you say. That's why I get excited about this stuff. Is like the books you read, it's not the $24 that you spent for the book. It's the next President's Circle Award that you win, or the reason that you can take your family to Hawaii this summer for a
Mhm.
week because you've done these things that unlocked your success that were not coming to you unless you spent the extra time reading about it and then applying what you've read, or joining a mastermind group, a networking group. Yes, the book club. I actually joined the book club because it's pushing me to read. When I'm the only person that says you got to be prepared to read, it gets pushed out. When I say, "Hey, Robert," and we had like 12 people in the first meeting I went to, which was really
Yep.
cool. Everyone's excited to talk about the book.
Mhm.
I've read more of the book because of that community factor. So I believe so much in what you're saying today, and that's why I wanted you on the show. It's like people are sick of me hearing talk about it; they want to hear it from you. Um, but can you give a couple examples about maybe one that comes to mind where you're like, I learned this, whether it was a Bob Burg book or something recently
Yeah.
that you've read, you applied it, and you can just say the results are there.
Yes, I'll do that, but I also want to fill in one more thing. Salespeople love to look at the successes, and I think the success. Yeah, President's Club is really important, and like hitting President's Club is a big achievement. You should feel proud of that. But I've never needed that
Right.
personally. Like I'm just the kind of guy that I don't like winning as much as I hate losing. So for me, these transferable skills, like this, having this knowledge, being good at sales, this is actually what helps me in my dark moments when I lose that client and I'm staring down a quota that's unachievable, or heaven forbid I get fired, which has happened before. And if you haven't been fired as a salesperson, you just haven't had your day yet. But like when these things come, like you having a professionalism approaching your career as a professional would, continuing to develop your education, that's what helps you go get the next job or start the next company or do. It's an inherent understanding and belief in your value because of what you've invested in this skill set that goes, hey, that just wasn't my job, or maybe the territory was bad, or maybe the product is a big scam.
Mhm.
I can with confidence move on to the next one because I know my value, because I invest in myself. And then,
Right.
yeah, maybe you'll
So
make
important.
President's Club of the next one, and that's great.
Yeah.
But President's Club won't help you 18 months from now when you get fired. Like that's
What
the
the way
challenge.
I'll say it, I agree with you on that, but I also in a little bit will push back on it because
Uh-huh.
what I'll say is everybody's wired differently. So for
Yeah.
me, I personally can tell you with confidence and with 100% truth that I always do care about when I sell something, whether it was when I sold Sleep Number beds or insurance or podcasting like I do now for my own company. When I'm selling something confidently knowing it's the right thing, that's great. But for me, I was always wired like back in the insurance days or the selling mattress days. We always had these incentives, and to me, it was fun. It was a Mike versus Mike, me versus me. It was a me versus Robert. I like to check to see where I'm at, and so I had a little bit of reflection of like, how do I fall in on the roster here? But to me, it was like hitting that. It was like sports again, because I wasn't playing sports the way that I did growing up. So to me, I enjoyed that. But all it was saying is you're helping, like, I got to celebrate helping more people.
Yeah.
Well, if you're doing something you believe in, it never is going to feel bad being rewarded for doing the right thing. But I understand what you're saying, that not everybody's wired by the trophy or by the trip. Some people might be like, I don't want to go to that trip. I want to just spend
Yeah.
time with my family, go on my vacation, not spend it with 30 of the best people at the company. Everybody's different. To me, I enjoy that. I love cracking the beer with the CEO of the company saying, man, I love what we're doing with the vision of this company and having that opportunity. And other people might say, I just want to, continue to do well for my family.
Yeah. And the
Everyone's
important
motivations
part
are
is
different.
that you did what was authentically true for you.
Right.
I remember my boss used to get really excited. Hey man, you got that contract. Good job. And I'm like, really the fun part for me was the initial FTA when I really challenged them on their thinking and they thought they really got value from that. Like that's where I got my high. But that
Uh-huh.
was what was authentic to me. To you, hitting the numbers, getting the I call it the approval. You got the approval. You said you did a good job. You got the
Mhm.
thing that fueled you. What's great, what helped you pass the sniff test is that it's authentic to you. You
Mhm.
found your fuel, and that's what helped you be successful. And that's every bit as important. Don't do what I've got my winning lottery ticket. You go get yours.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's I really love that you said that.
And everybody listening, find your winning lottery ticket, because
Yeah, go get
your
your fine
everyone's
and
DNA to their successful XYZ career
yeah.
is different. That's what's exciting about it. But I will tell you, with that said, um, give me two people, any two people. It could be super sharp
Yeah.
salespeople or brand new, never sold a thing in their life. And one person's going to go above and beyond and do self development and self investment. And the other is going to have the attitude of, I already know everything. Give me those two
Mhm.
people, put them out there for a year, and I'll tell you, the person who and they both are here, you're going to see a growth and development with the person who's investing in podcasting and listening to great things that are increasing their think, and in books as well. And I really appreciate you spending the time talking about it. Let's do this for a couple minutes. Let's talk about 3 red flags. You may have done this a little bit, but I wanted to like really articulate 3 red flags, maybe characteristics of an unprofessional salesperson, and then we'll follow it up with the flip. We'll say, what are 3 characteristics of a really great salesperson? Maybe just some things that come to mind.
Yeah. So if I was hiring a salesperson, if I was, vetting someone for a client, the things I'm looking for is the very first one is just it might even be all three is trustworthiness. Like if I
Yeah.
can catch a salesperson in a lie, that's like an immediate fail. And I don't care how small the lie is. This matters less when you sell Snickers bars, but when you're selling really, high ticket B2B services or a consultative thing where you can't give a demo or compare features side by side, when what you're selling is essentially promises. I'm going to be a good accountant. I'm going to be a good IT provider. I'm going to be a good coach. When you're looking at those types of sales process or those products, I'm just when I'm interviewing, I'm just looking for lies. I'm just looking for that might be all 3 red flags, but it's just untrustworthiness in the small things. If you can't tell me the truth in a thing that doesn't matter, telling the truth to power when things that really do matter
Yeah,
is
when the
going to
bad
be
wolf
very
comes
hard.
out, how you gonna fight it if
Yeah.
you're
If I
lying
can't
about?
trust you with a $25 expense account,
Yeah,
like, how can I trust you with the $25,000 contract? And so
exactly.
that's the first thing I'm always looking for is trustworthiness. Can I catch you in a lie? So
Mhm.
that's the first one. The second thing I'd probably, if I had to point it out there, is teachability. Like, do
Mm.
you, can I take what's in my head and put it in yours? It doesn't have to be like, I'm not looking for carbon copies. I'm not looking for slaves. I'm not even looking for people that just say yes and write it down. I'm saying, can you actually absorb information and employ it, even if you don't like it? Like, are you just teachable? Because there are so many things that I know, and yeah, maybe you can't say it the same way I say it, and maybe you shouldn't because it's not authentic to you. But can you take the concept, learn it, and apply it? And are you just willing to go through that process even when it doesn't make sense to you?
Yeah, I would say that's like number one, right? Because if you're not willing to do that, everything else kind of doesn't fall into place, right? You come with that right
Yeah.
attitude,
Unless I'm looking to hire
coachability.
you to be exactly as you are today and never change. And if
Yeah.
you are, then that's fine. But I've never hired anyone out of that premise. So
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you.
You're a finished product. Please don't ever learn another
Yeah,
thing or
please
do
don't
anything.
change, don't get any better or worse, just be you forever. I've never wanted that person. So,
Yeah.
so that's teachability is definitely the second one. So honesty, integrity, teachability. And then
Yeah.
the third one is I would just love to see, for me, this is going to be like all the HR people are going to hate this, but um, I think you have to have some level of likability. And that's such a challenge because as a cisgendered
Personality.
white
Yeah.
male, like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have all kind of like me bias, and and I wanted to throw that out there. You have to be aware of that. I'm not saying they have to be like me. I'm saying that they have to be likable. Like, it's very hard to be a successful salesman if you piss off everybody you talk to.
Yeah.
So you have to have some level
It's
of, and I
huge.
don't think
Yeah.
it's a level of social and self-awareness that is just hard to teach. Like, if you just are sandpaper to everyone all the time, I
Yeah.
just don't know how to get you to be a good salesperson. And maybe
How
there are sales
how
coaches out there.
likely is it that you're gonna
Yeah.
change all of that if
If
that's
you're
how
a
you've
sales
been?
coach
Yeah.
listening and you know how to deal with that, I got referrals for you. Reach out. But that's just not something I would ever be able to really work with. So,
Sure. I think those are really great. Here's what I love about this conversation even more. It just keeps growing. Is that we're talking about sales, but we're really not. We're talking about just human behavior,
life skills, man.
likability, life skills, things that can progress you in any field. Which this show, my target audience, I'm looking at the numbers, always checking that stuff out. It's 18 to 45 is a really like, I know it's a big gap, but 18 to 45-year-olds are tuning in the most, and it's literally split man, female. Like
Mhm.
it's right down the middle. So
Yeah.
that's exciting. And I love the fact that there's a lot of young entrepreneurial minded people tuning in. And the purpose of the show is to help unlock them to that next level. And if you take everything, guys, that Robert just told you over the last 47 minutes and apply it to yourself, it doesn't matter what you're doing. I know for sure when I see you guys next time and talk to you, you're going to be better off for doing these things. So, and the thing is, you say it really well. You're well spoken, which I think is another trait, right? How well do they communicate?
Yeah.
It's hard to be great in sales if you're a terrible communicator, right? So, let's talk about this. So it's 2022 as we're recording this interview, right? So the way that sales were transacted even 25 years ago, not too long ago, was much different, right? But at the
Yep.
same time, there's so many similarities in closing a deal today to back then. Can you share the formula to a timeless, effective sales process? So now we're talking a little bit more on the process side
Oh
of it.
yeah. I've read Spin. I know Bant. I know Challenger. If you had to ask me what my preferred sales process is for, again, a complex B2B service,
Hmm.
it's 80% Sandler, 20% Challenger. I believe the
Okay.
Sandler sale, you have the upfront contract, you have pain money decision, where I disagree with Sandler in today's day and age is that he uses the submarine where you go through pain, you close the door, and now you're in money, you close the door, now you're in, decision. I think it's more like a Venn diagram, and you can use one to test the other. You can use decision to test pain. You can use money to test pain. You can use pain to test decision. You can use them as tools to prop up a reason to cross through the door and go to a presentation. And it's so important in any sales process, but particularly that complex B2B sale. You don't start presenting until you have a full understanding of pain, money, and decision, and they meet your standards. And basically, for me, it's, we have that upfront contract, that little 90-second, hey, this is what we're doing for the next hour. And then we dive into the pain, money decision. And I'm not going to tell you anything about my company or how much I cost or my solution or why I'm a unique snowflake or why you would buy from me or why you wouldn't. We're not going to talk about that until I personally believe you have enough pain to justify hiring me, that the value I could provide would justify the money you'd spend, and that I'm talking to the person who's going to sign the contract, and I understand how you're going to choose someone even if it's not me. And if I can't get my head around that as a salesperson, I'm just not going to take the easy way out and present my company and my solution.
Yeah.
That is Sandler sales with a little bit of Challenger sprinkled on top. And that's how I prefer to do it.
Yeah, I think it's again super well said. It's getting the discovery process first, where you need to take a ton of notes, and you're not just asking questions to grill somebody. Oh, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. It's learning about them, so you can then better serve them. That's so important. I think a lot of times people present, and then at the end they're
Uh-huh.
like, "So what do you think of all that information?" And it's just like you
They're like,
basically just vomited at them for 30 minutes straight.
yeah,
Where you're talking about, let them know up front, set the
yeah.
expectations. Hey, here's our agenda. We're going to do ABC. And, but before I can do D, whatever, however you want to word it, I really want to chat with you to understand and figure out where we're at. And so then you ask them those great questions. And now it's basically ammunition. I know that word can be looked at as a negative thing, but you basically have the tools now to close a deal and do, like we said earlier, actually ethically sell something.
Yeah, and I'm even going to pivot it to the other direction if you can, because
Yeah,
ammunition is
let's
such a
do it.
charge. Like it's hard to think of ammunition healing anyone. But if you think about it this way, again, you're sitting in a person's office or on a Zoom meeting because they need you. They
Hmm.
need the information in your head, even if it's just the price and the term. But they need something from you. You have, believe it or not, as the salesperson, all the power. The only
Hmm.
power they have is the ability to pull the cord and stop the ride. But if they want to be on your ride, you are in control. You are completely in charge. And you can either choose to use that power to manipulate, to make them think the way you want, to
Mm.
present your product in the best light possible, showing no warts so that you get the deal. Or you can use that power to truly understand what they need, and if it's not what you have, to bring that to the forefront and make that a reason why you should end the meeting. It's the same. It looks the same if you were reading the script, but it comes off completely differently in the sniff test. You have all the power as the salesperson. They need you. How will you use that responsibility and that power? Who are you going to serve? Which dog are you going
Mhm.
to feed?
Yeah, it's so man, boom, mic drop moment. I love it, brother. It's so good again because it's talking about serving, but not just in this like wishy-washy. It's literally like systematically, this is the best way for you to be able to achieve what you want. That's helping you, the company, and your client or customer. And again, and it went back to that situation of it's a blessing that they're giving you time. Maybe it's a 5 minute presentation, 60-minute presentation, hopefully not that long, but is whatever the amount of time is that it takes for you to properly do what you need to do. And if someone's giving you that time, I kind of forgot about that. The fact that like it's your show, man. Like you drive the car, you got the keys, they're coming along for the ride. And what I'll add to that, if I may, is do you want it to be a boring ride, an exciting ride, an experience? We talked about the Maya Angelou. Like, how do you
Yep.
make them feel after they're off your ride? Do they go, "That was like every other freaking ride I've ever been on," or do they go like, "That dude just wowed me. I want to talk to him again. He's cool. I like Mike. I like Robert." You know. So anyone listening, what does your experience look like when you're trying to sell or present? Is it just the same thing they just saw 5 times in a row, or is it a new experience? Right.
Mm. Yeah,
So good.
and Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss again. He has there's three yeses. There's yes, I want to buy. There's yes, I want to learn more, and there's yes, please for the love of God stop talking. If I say no, you won't shut up. Like that's and we have to be aware of kind of all those things. So another thing is when you're in control, when you're driving that meeting, if it's awkward, it's because of you. Like if it's rough, if they're not telling you the truth, it's because of you. If it
Uh-huh.
feels awkward, it's because of you. You're in the driver's seat.
Mm. Yeah. You gotta be able to feel that and understand something's off, identify
Yeah.
it, maybe even bring it up like, "Hey, I'm noticing that you seem uh, can I make you better understand?" Whatever. Like just take the
Yeah.
ownership and say, "Hey, I'm here. I know something's up.
Yeah.
Let's fix it." And that will
Yeah.
be at least, sh- I would assume, well received, and if not, then you're already you're just getting to
one of my favorite sales tactics is just if you feel it, say it, and it's so hard.
and
But I
don't
can't
drag
tell
it
you,
out, because if they're
yeah,
out, if they're not going to buy,
yeah,
why give them another 15? Why waste your and their
yeah.
time
Or
for
just try
15
one.
minutes?
Just go. Guys, is it awkward in here? It feels really awkward. Did I say something that really rubbed you the wrong way? I'm looking
Yeah,
at your faces, and I'm just all my red flags are up right now. What
yeah,
did I do? Like, you say that in a meeting, you can't. Your authenticity meter goes to 100.
uh-huh.
And yeah, if it really is that bad, you might have lost the deal anyway. So let's just move. Let's just at least clean it up on the way
And
out. Like, if you feel it, they feel it
exactly, yeah,
too. You
yeah, you
know.
got it,
So
yeah,
for the sniff test, if you smell that bad, they smelt it a long time ago. You know, if you smell so bad, you're smelling yourself. You need to call. The only way to save the deal is to call it out in the meeting. And if you have any hope of salvaging it, they'll let you know.
yeah. Again, it's so important when you're authentic. You can achieve so much more. If you're coming in less than 100% authentic, we talk about the sniff testing so much, but it's literally like people feel that energy is off.
Mm-hmm.
And I like what you said is own it. It's your responsibility. They're on your ride. Like if it's not
Yep.
feeling right, that's on you. And even if it's something they said, maybe someone's having a bad day and they're bringing this weird energy and it's not actually on you, still own it. Still say, well, maybe I can make him feel better. He's
Still
having a
your
bad
ride,
day.
you know?
It's my ride.
They're not gonna fix it.
Yeah,
It's gotta be you. So
I got to fix this guy's attitude, right? Or whatever. So I think that's awesome. I know we got a couple more minutes. I'm going to hit you. This is not supposed to be a curveball, but I want you to
okay.
really summarize kind of, we know where you've been, how you got to where you're at today. The third part of it's kind of where you're looking to go with all of this. And I'm excited to hear this because I don't really know what you're about to say. So think of it this way. We're talking about a lot of books and reading, and so we're going to hit on this. You're the author and protagonist in your own life story, and you get to write the ending. And God willing, you continue to live a long, prosperous life. You're looking back, you're reflecting on it, Robert, and you get to define your legacy. What would that be?
Wow, that's a really so I'll go in three tiers. We're going to start at the lifelong, the end goal. My big, hairy, audacious goal is if I get everything I want in this world and I have all the influence and power to do it, I want people to just be able to get a sales job, and it's like becoming an accountant. Like it's just normal. It's not weird. I want to reclaim or redefine or take back the word sales. And I would love to find a way to just make it normal again and like undo whatever damage we've done that made it so weird. That's the big, hairy, audacious goal. In the next year, and in fact, right now, I'm signing up people for my first cohort. One of the things that I was able to do in my last 7 years working at an IT company before I left 8 weeks ago was I built a networking group from scratch. So I have a process for identifying, qualifying, nurturing, activating, and then rewarding a referral network that net me between 50 and 100 referrals a year and allowed me to close millions of dollars in recurring revenue. So I have that process and I need to codify it and turn it into something I can sell. So my first cohort, I'm signing up people right now to teach them that whole process in exchange for using the audio to refine it and get it transcribed. And then so
Very cool. Is that something
next year I'll be
available that people could sign up for or get information on?
if you want to know about it, I'm launching it at the end of May, so you can absolutely email me and I'll talk to you and we'll see if you're a good fit for the cohort. And if you're not, that's fine. Early next year, it'll be available for sale, and then somewhere around
Awesome.
the 3 to 5 years, I'm gonna be. I want to have like an MBA in sales. I want to like take a salesperson and show them everything they would need to know to personally develop themselves into being a high functioning top performer from scratch. So that's kind of the 3 to 5 year range.
What I love about it is when I hear people answer this question, we had some incredible people on the show, including yourself, and this has been awesome.
Thank you.
Is when I hear someone answer the question and they're already doing the stuff they're talking about. So it's not like we talk for an hour and then all of a sudden I ask you that question and you're talking about some wild, weird thing that you didn't address yet. And you're not doing any action items to get you there. And it's totally a dream. That doesn't happen very often on the show. I usually, like yourself, like you're creating the systems, you have reclaiming sales, you're already working on getting the word back because you have a podcast about it. You have a company, you have a book club about it. And then now you have this process you're creating, you get the cohort, so you're actually taking action on it. And I do believe that when people hear your name and they will associate it with, he's helped me get basically an MBA in sales. Now, whether it's called that or something else, doesn't matter. That's the impact you're making. And I love it, brother. I see this going, as big as you want it to go. And so I just appreciate you for being here today, sharing your story, and I look forward to seeing it in the book club in May.
Well, thank you, Mike. You're a good man, and I appreciate the interview and just being on the show. So thank you.
Yeah, you crushed it, brother. Thank you so much for your time. Tell everybody 2 things, man. Be great, be grateful. Thank you so much for your time.
I'd like to give a huge shout out to everyone for tuning in, especially those who listen all the way to the end to hear this message. Seriously, I appreciate you, and my guests do as well. Giving a quick reminder to subscribe to this show. It's completely free and will allow you to receive notifications when new episodes are released. If you'd like to provide a tip as a gift, you can do so via patreon.com/mikedup. It's spelled MIKED up. Patreon.com/mikedup. You can give as little as $1 per month or as much as you'd like. Every dollar is greatly appreciated and completely unexpected. Appreciate your reviews and your messages coming in on social as well. Keep them coming. Your feedback is valuable and absolutely means the world to me. You can check out more episodes and content at mikeduppodcast.com. We're powered by Social Chameleon. You can also follow me on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active, and it's at Mike DiCioccio, MikeDiCioccio. Thank you so much for your continued support. You guys know what to do. Be great and be grateful.